Welcome back everybody. من ترسناک‌ترین ویدیوهایی که تونستم این هفته پیدا کنم. تو این هفته هم قراره مثل هفته‌های قبلی 3 تا ویدیو با هم ببینیم. اسپوکی ونزدی، یه برنامه‌ای که هر چهارشنبه میشینیم و فیلم‌های ترسناک کوتاه رو با هم دیگه می‌بینیم. این برنامه خلاصه شده از فیلم‌های ترسناک کوتاه، انیمیشن‌های ترسناک کوتاه، بدون هیچ معطلی. ویدیو ویدیو اول این هفتمون اسمش هست Portrait of the God، یعنی عکس پورتره خدا، و توسط دیلان کلارک آپلود شده. No man shall see me and live. هیچ کسی نمیتونه منو ببینه و زنده بمونه. منو ببین و بمیر یا نبین و زنده بمون. ها؟ اوکی اوکی دوکی. Portrait of a God، پورتره خدا. اوکی، زمان تایمر رو شروع میکنه.
What does God look like? I'm going to show you a painting, or rather, a photograph of a painting. Just take a moment and stare at it. What do you see?
هیچی نمیبینم هنوز.
If the answer is nothing, if it just looks black to you, don't worry,
آره.
that's what I see too.
Okay.
But that's not what everyone sees. The painting I've chosen for this project is titled Portrait of God. While most viewers see nothing, some insist they see a person in the darkness, one that they can describe and draw out with consistent details.
It's a man, or close to a man. Wrinkled, skinny.
Really skinny.
He looks skinny. He's smiling.
He's grinning. He smiles down at us.
Almost looks like the corners of his mouth got smudged.
Well, he's wearing a mask.
It's too wide. His eyes.
He's looking down with his eyes are big.
They're big. They've got this glint in them.
Speckle of light in them. Honestly, it's unsettling. Of course it's frightening. That kind of power should be. I don't like looking at it.
واو.
It's beautiful.
یه شکلی میبینن انگار
Maybe it's
همشون.
just a trick of the light. Maybe they're seeing something they want to see.
منطقیه
But how are
منطقیه.
their descriptions so consistent? Maybe they really are having a religious experience. And why does God appear to them and not us?
Why can't they see him؟ چرا نمیتونن اونو ببینن؟ منم هیچی ندیدم. اوکی، انگار داره واسه یه نمایشنامه یا یه ارائه‌ای واسه دانشگاهش تمرین میکنه و موضوعش هم پورتریت آف د گاد، یعنی یه عکس پورتره از خداست. خیلی سخته، یعنی خیلی استرس داره که بری جلو. فرض کن 40 تا دانشجو 80 تا چشم بهت نگاه کنه و تو باید دقیق و روون حرف بزنی که بتونی یه ارائه خوب و خفنی بدی. خیلی استرسیه، خیلی. من فکر کنم یه چیزی دیدم. صبر کن، اسلو موشن برو. اوه دنگ خدا، یعنی این شکلیه Portrait of the God. Oh my goodness.
What does God look like?
Oh.
I'm going to show you a painting, or rather, a photograph of a painting. Just take a moment and
تکرار
stare.
میکنم شو، داره تمرین میکنه. الان هیچی نمیبینم. این 100% این دختره میبینه اونم.
Do you see?
چی میبینی؟ او شوت، الان دارم 2 تا چشم میبینم. اینم داره میبینه. دنگ. آره خاموشش کن. وای 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 الان تکون میخوره من مطمئنم. او شوت. آه وای وای. بابا فرار کن.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the
Ah.
power, and the glory forever.
آه. این شیطانه. Oh my goodness. واو. او 3 ساعت همینجوری خیره شده به این پروژکتور. واو. همه تشویق کنین. واو. عجب شروع خفنی واسه این هفته. خفن بود. خفن. ویدیو دوم این هفتهمون اسمش است Free Unsettling Field Trip Horror Stories Animated توسط IMR Scary Tales آپلود شده. Story 1.
Back in junior high, I took this ancient history class for some extra credits. I was never much of a talker, so I made only one friend in the class. His name was
ایو چرا اینجوریان اینا خودشون ترسناکن. ببین اون موجود ترسناکی که تو این داستان هست چه شکلیه. دنگ.
Lucian. One day, our teacher told us that we will be taken on an overnight field trip to a heritage site in the mountains. On a sunny morning, the class of 15 boarded the school bus and started for our destination. As we drove amidst the winding mountain roads, we could sense the weather getting chilly and the surroundings getting spooky. Both sides of the roads were connected to the dense forest, which even in daylight was dark as hell. After driving for an hour straight, the bus driver stopped near a narrow, dusty road. A worn-out signboard was put on the road, reading, "The Roaring Silence Wildlife Park." I've never heard such a weird name for a zoo. Our teacher, Miss Mitria, lined us up.
Everybody, pay attention. We will see classic examples of Gothic and medieval architecture once we go inside. Stick with the group and do not fool around.
We started venturing into the narrow road. There was an abandoned castle with small stone huts. It was a pretty weird zoo. Empty iron cages and stables were scattered around the property. We entered the ruins one by one and found dirt.
عجب پارک کریپی و وحشتناکی واسه اردو انتخاب کردی. کی میاد همچین پارکی؟ البته خودشون هم نمیدونستن. مسئولای دانشگاه یا مدرسه بودن که اینا رو آوردن. همچین جایی رو اصلا انتخاب نکنه. یعنی اینجا یه چیز خطرناکی هست، چیز وحشتناکی هست. من میگم بهتون. بعد رفتین چیزی شد نگین نگفتم.
Cages filled with garbage and God knows what. There was this big bird cage, which still had feathers and dead bird skeletons lying around the floor. Who on earth wanted to build a zoo like this? Read my mind. The inside of the castle was damp and soggy. A foul stench made the air heavy. Suddenly, we saw this narrow passageway on our right leading to a different section of the castle. Miss Mitria was explaining the architecture with great interest. Taking that window of opportunity, Lucian and I decided to wander around a bit. We took the right passage and walked to the end of it. There was this huge wooden door with a heavy padlock on it. Why is that door closed? I don't know. What do you think's on the other side?
ببین اینم یه نکته کلیدی که هیچ اتفاقی واسهتون نیفته. این وقتی رو در نوشته اصلا باز نکنید. Keep out. یه قفل بزرگ زدن. اصلا کلا قفل زدن، چه بزرگ چه کوچیک. اصلا و ابدا نه بازش کنید، نه برید داخلش، نه برید اون طرف در چیه. زود سریع تند بدون هیچ مکس و فکری بچرخید و برگردید. اگه این کارو بکنین مطمئنا زنده میمونید. اگه این کارو نکنین به احتمال 99% میمیرین.
Ian placed his ear on the door. The class had moved to the other wing by then, so it was pin drop silence. The deadness of the environment started to choke me. Hey, we better get back. This
این
place is
سبزه
freaking the hell out
باشه.
of me. Shh, I
این
can hear something.
احمقه.
What? Yeah. Place your ear on the door. I too placed my ear on the door. There was indeed a heavy breathing sound coming from the other side of the door. Whatever was on that side felt alive and angry. What the hell? Lucian screamed.
Oh,
and we both started
shoot.
running. When we joined back our class, we were both panting in fear. Miss Mitria noticed us and said,
Where were you two?
we got lost, Miss Mitria. Yeah.
بگیم بهش اتفاقی افتاد.
We are going to camp nearby, and don't you dare sneak into the castle without my permission. You could get lost.
Sorry, Miss Mitria. Once everyone started to put up tents for the camp, Lucian pulled me over to a corner and said in a fearful voice, You heard it, right? Yeah, what was that? Some kind of animal? I don't know,
هیچ
but we
حیوانی
need to
نبود.
find
یه
out. You
شیطان
want to
بود.
go in there again? That too, after dark? Don't you want to find out? This is why we came here, Elias. But if Miss Mitria finds out, she won't. We will go in after everyone falls asleep. Around 1:30 a.m., we came out of our tent. The night sky was clear with thousands
عجب
of
زمان
stars
بعدی
blinking
هم
above us.
رفتیم اونجا.
The moon felt bigger and brighter than usual, contributing to the perfect scary setting of this place. Everyone was asleep. Lucian and I took our flashlights and entered the abandoned wildlife park. The castle stood like a haunted mansion. We remembered the suspicious room was on the second floor to our first right. Every footstep we took echoed. When we finally reached the door, I could feel the hair at the back of my neck stood up. Lucian looked at me with nervous eyes, and then slowly walked to the door. He took a deep breath and knocked on it. He knocked again. Lucian, I feel like we shouldn't be here, man. Let's go. Maybe you're right. We turned around to leave, and that's when we heard a distorted human voice calling to us. Help me. Our eyes immediately turned back to the door. Drops of sweat appeared on my forehead. Is there a person behind that door? No, that's enough. We need to leave now. But what if that man needs our help? I'm gonna open the door. I must. Saying this, Lucian picked up this rock from the ground and started hitting the padlock with it. Stop it, Lucian, please! But he didn't listen. After 5 to 6 hard blows, the padlock broke and the door creaked open just enough to let out a reeking smell of urine and blood peek through. Our eyes were stuck to the door now. We flashed our light slowly on the gap and saw a freaky-looking eye staring at us from the dark. We could also see the partial face of the owner of that eye. His face was wrapped around with bandages like a mummy. Suddenly, the door was pushed wide open, and a four-legged man came running at us at full speed. He only had his eyes and thousands of teeth. I've never seen anything like that. Ah! Run! Run for your life! We started running to the exit while the
این حرف باید گبلم میزدی قبل از اینکه در رو باز کنی.
I knew if it gets us, that will be the end, and maybe this sudden panic made my trip. I fell on the concrete floor, screaming, Lucien! Lucien, who was already ahead of me, noticed me lying on the floor. I couldn't get up as I twisted my knee. He came back for me, and just when he was trying to lift me, we heard a gurgling sound, as if a creature from hell breathing near us. We looked to our left, and there it was. Just a few inches distance, the humanoid creature stopped, and then slowly crawled towards us. His wide, toothy mouth opened into a hollow, dark hole, and it brought its face right next to ours. I wanted to close my eyes, but it felt like I forgot how to. The creature stared right into our souls, and then said in its raspy, broken voice, "You." We then watched it crawl to the nearest window pane and jump from that height. A sound of a thud on the grass took place, and then everything went silent. I can't explain how we got back to our tent. For the rest of the field trip, Lucien and I never talked about this incident. But till today, when I think about it, I feel sick to my stomach. What kind of fracked up zoo keeps a distorted human being? Lucien later gave me this theory that the creature was a real human being put up to disturbing experiments. Years ago, some people tortured humans in the name of science and did all kinds of bizarre things. I still wonder how it survived all those years inside that abandoned castle with no food or water. I'm glad it didn't try to kill us. I'm pretty sure that that creature is now living safely in that mountain forest.
Story
The
2.
photograph you see in this video is a part of a police file of a mass murderer. During a raid in a forest, a group of policemen found this house and this peculiar
واو
sign.
اینجاش خفن
When
بود.
entering it, could not
این
tolerate the
عکس
horror.
واقعی بود از یه پرونده پلیس.
Murderer. During a raid in a forest, a group of policemen found this house and this peculiar sign. When entering it, could not tolerate the horror. At least 7 dead bodies of children between the ages of 6 to 17 were seated, without eyes, tongue, or arms. For this reason, the murderer used this peculiar sign, free hugs, as none of the corpses could give them. The story you're about to see is based on this creepy image, with one of the most horrifying backstories in the field of true crime. The incident had taken place somewhere back in 2015, while I was still struggling through middle school, trying to adapt to my new surroundings. I made one friend named Cash, who was a popular kid in my class back then. So, my new school announced an overnight field trip to a wildlife area in Wisconsin. We were made to walk through the entire wildlife park while our science teacher explained to us about medicinal plants and various animal species living in that area. There wasn't much to see, though, just hiking trails scattered throughout the woods. After a point, we reached the campground, where the teachers decided to tent for the night. The sun hadn't set yet, so there was still light. I was sitting on a rock watching.
میخوام حدس بزنم که میخواد چه اتفاقی بیفته. شب میشه، عصر میشه، این پسره بلند میشه و میره که تو جنگل قدم بزنه. بعد اون صحنه رو میبینی که فری هاگز نوشته. خب میگه خب من تا حالا دوست دختر نداشتم، هیچ کس رو بغل نکردم، این یه بغل رایگانه، برم یه بغلی بگیرم. میره و جنازه‌شو تحویل میگیرن معلماش. این کل داستان در 20 ثانیه.
Butterflies flying over a bush when Cash called me. Yo, Miller, care for a stroll around the woods? I saw he was headed to the woods. I was bored, so I accompanied him. We went towards the opposite direction of the campsite. We took this unknown trail. The trail dipped steeply, taking us down into an unknown direction. Is it safe to wander around like this? Relax. Everything will be fine. As we walked further, I began to grow uneasy. Everything about the trail felt like I was straying into some foreign place, and I was no longer so confident of where I was. I felt like we were losing ourselves in the forest with every step. It was the trees. The trees changed. The maple and oak trees that dominated the park dwindled as we descended, replaced by an old pine forest. The underbrush vanished. The forest floor was an open carpet of pine needles. There were few birds and fewer animals, and the wind was little too chilly. I felt like we were intruding as the silence encased us. What is that? Cash pointed to the tree, and I too saw a small stone structure standing behind it. We increased our pace and reached near it. It was a small hut-like room made with stones that were now covered in moss and weed. And on its entry wall remained a graffiti reading "Free Hugs," followed by an arrow gesturing inside the hut. What the hell is this place? You wanna go in there? For free hugs? Not funny, Cash. We started checking out the hut from outside. Honestly, it was so dark that never in my life I was going to get in. What do you think happened in here? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. Cash took out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and said, "Let's go in." What? Are you crazy? Come on, there's obviously no one inside. Without waiting for my reply, Cash stepped into the abandoned, freaky-looking hut and disappeared into the darkness. I could hear his footsteps. What do you see in there? A bunch of garbage. Wait, what is that? What? Cash? Is everything all right? I felt goosebumps for not hearing.
اسم این پسر کشه. بعد اینو که گوگل ترنسلیت دوبله کرده کش ها نوشته پول. به به، هیچ وقت از گوگل ترنسلیت واسه ترجمه ویدیوهاتون استفاده نکنید اصلا.
Cash's voice anymore. Did he get into trouble? Did something happen to him? I turned the flashlight on my phone and went to check. Believe me when I say this, I was engulfed by the darkness the moment I stepped in. As my light flashed on the ground, I saw piles of kids' clothes scattered like rags. Cash was standing in the corner, staring at something. There was an acute fear on his face. Cash? What's wrong? He didn't say anything, just raised his shaking hand and pointed to a pile of white dust. At first glance, I mistook the pile as a heap of sand, but once I looked closely, I saw thousands of human bones kept in the corner. The bones were smaller, which indicated they belonged to kids. But that wasn't the only thing that we found in there. As we turned our eyes to the wall, our stomachs dropped. The walls were decorated with Polaroid pictures of kids sitting inside this abandoned hut. Not one of the kids had eyes or arms. There were probably
oh my god,
art exhibition. Under each photo, the name of those kids was written. Oh my god, this is why it's named Free Hugs? Cash ran out and started vomiting. My head was throbbing with horror because I too have understood the sick irony behind the graffiti on the outside wall. Free hugs. So these kids were left with no hands or eyes, so they can't refuse a hug? What kind of sick psycho did this to those poor children? I came out yelling, "Cash, we need to tell the..." But where was Cash? I found myself standing in the woods all alone. Cash? Cash! I called out his name, but no reply came. Suddenly, I heard a choking sound coming from distance. I figured out it was from behind the hut. I slowly walked to the backside, and what I saw still scares me to sleep. A woman. Barely human, I should say. She looked 1,000 years old. Her skin was all sagging, with cheekbones gushing out like mountaintops. She had no flesh under her skin. Her body was skinnier than a twig. She was sitting on the grass and licking the edge of a stone dipped in thick, fresh blood. And in front of her lay my unconscious friend, Cash. with a deep wound at the back of his head. I made a gasping sound, seeing the woman slowly licking the blood off the stone with which she had knocked Cash a few moments back. Her tongue turned red with every single lick. There was a sick pleasure in her eyes as she tasted the blood in her mouth. Miller! Cash! Just then, I heard the voice of our teacher calling our names. The woman sitting on the ground noticed me. I will never forget her stare. She let out a chuckle and said,
You?
You two are lucky that I have no more camera reels left.
and disappeared into the woods. Our teacher carried Cash back to the campsite, where everybody else got notified about this sudden accident. Our principal called the local cops, and I told them everything I saw in the woods. The free hugs hut, the woman, everything. The area turned into a crime scene within the next 24 hours, and we were escorted back to the town after the cops took over. It's been nearly a decade now, and the place is still in police record along with its evidence and human remains. As per police investigation, the bones they found inside the hut could identify 8 bodies.
Goosebump
But going
دارم.
through the Polaroid pictures, the rest of the kids' bodies are still missing. They searched the entire forest thrice, but never found that woman.
واو این هفته خدا بود. ویدیو اول The Portrait of the God، ویدیو دوم متوسط یکم خوب و ویدیو سوم خفن. این هفته عالی بود. اسپوکی ونزدی.